Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the 5 Gyres Trash Academy, where we're learning all about the life cycle of plastic. My name is Melissa Aguayo, and we are at the end of our first season of Trash Academy here. So as our plastic journey is coming to an end, it appears as though we have a big problem, right? We've talked a lot about how we became dependent on plastic. So we learned about the history. We learned about the different types of plastic. We learned how challenging it is to recycle some of these and how some of these are really false solutions. So today we are going to focus a lot on what are some of the solutions that exist and how we can be a part of them. So pop quiz. Do you remember the life cycle of plastic? Let's review. So we start over here with extraction, right? We learned how something that is shocking for a lot of people is that most plastic is made from fossil fuels. Then you have to go to plastic production. So you can see from that image that there is toxic air being released from those plastic production manufacturing plants, and it's also contaminating water. Then you have point of sale, right? So they're selling this to us. It goes to consumers where once it gets used for minutes or days or however long, ends up becoming waste. And then finally that either gets dumped or burned. So what does your plastic cycle look like? We can see that there's a very clear beginning, middle, and end, but what the problem with this is that this is a linear cycle. We currently live in a linear economy where most of the time we're extracting and then just disposing of these valuable resources, in this case, plastic, instead of retrieving it or reusing it. We simply take, make, and dispose of our resources. But what about the natural cycle? If we remember when we were looking at biodegradable items and seeing how natural things biodegrade, but plastic does not, what if we took a look and modeled our things after nature? In nature, everything is part of a cycle, right? When there is a beginning, it all is part of or when there's an end, it's all part of the beginning as well. Everything has a purpose and is used over and over again. We saw this with the water cycle, right? As once it evaporates, it goes up into the cloud, into the skies, and then comes back down. So this is a circular model. How can we take a look at the difference between a circular model and a linear model and see where we can start to make changes to get to more of a circular model? Because what we know is, one, there is no way, right? Things are ending up somewhere. And we also know that there's a limited amount of resources. So what we know is that the linear model cannot exist infinitely. We have to find solutions to this. So there's a great little video that we're going to watch that is going to make it really clear kind of the difference between a circular model and a linear model. So let's take a look.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food. Energy is provided by the sun. Things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. As humans, we've adopted a linear approach. Take, we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
I love this video. I don't know about y'all, but it really kind of paints a picture of what a circular economy could look like and how everybody would really benefit from that. This video really touches on some of the themes that we've touched on throughout this season of Trash Academy. So going back to how we used to look at things, how Americans had a very different relationship with the things that they owned. And it was always about, figuring out ways that we can repurpose, that we can fix what we had. And now things have really shifted to be more disposable. Things are artificially inexpensive or artificially cheap, and we just keep buying more and more. But the problem is that all of these resources are finite, they are limited. So we have to do better. We have to be smarter, and we have to think about where are there opportunities to do better. Some of those currently exist, and some of them do require some innovation. So let's look at some of these better alternatives for plastic. We wanted to share a really amazing resource with you all, the Better Alternatives Now List 2.0. This was a resource that we put together with a lot of our partner organizations. And what we did was we merged national data sets looking at the top most polluting items. So once we merged these national data sets, we were able to come up with a list of the top 20 most offending items, like the items that we keep seeing again and again. And from that, we looked at what is the material that is likely being used, what would be a better alternative, and what is the best alternative. So let's look at some of these. We'll put the link down in this presentation as well, so that you can look at the Better Alternatives Now list on your own. It's an amazing resource. It also has a lot of good information on bioplastics. So for those of you who are kind of learning a little bit more about the different kinds of plastics and want to have a more clear understanding of what that means, highly recommended. It's a very easy read. All right, so let's start with another short little video here about buying in bulk. So our top worst offender was food packaging. So food packaging is continuously shifting. We're finding that packaging now accounts for 25% of all plastic manufacturing, and it's continuously shifting. So things that used to be in things like cardboard or other biodegradable or truly recyclable materials are now going to plastic. A lot of these are actually even multi-layer types of plastic or multi-layer materials, making it very, very challenging, if not impossible, to recycle, or at least certainly very cost prohibitive. So let's take a look at this little video real quick.
One of the biggest things you can do is try to buy food without packaging. Buying it in the bulk section is great, and you can take reusable cloth produce bags with you. These are great for like fruits and veggies, and then these are really good for buying nuts and grains and anything else in the bulk section.
Yeah, those are awesome. And I love how thin those are too. So if you're going to a place like Winco,
got cut off a little bit there, but shout out to our partners, Algalita. This is the person who owns the BYO store there. So going to places where you can buy in bulk is great. If you're able to take your own, I know things are a little bit weird right now with the pandemic, with COVID-19, but whenever possible, taking your own and buying in bulk is a great way to reduce the amount of plastic you consume. Another thing you can do is sometimes buy bigger. So buying, instead of, if you're buying like, let's say chip bags, that's really hard to get something like that without plastic packaging. Instead of getting small bags or even the kind of family-sized ones, you can get those really large ones and then put it in smaller reusable containers or reusable silicone bags. This is one way that you can help bring down that number one, right? Number 2 and 3 on the ban list, we had bottle caps and bottles. So a great solution to this is a reusable water bottle. 7 out of every 10 plastic bottles are trashed. And this is even in some places that have, we had talked about like California, where they have a system where a bottle deposit where you get some money back when you return those. But even so, most of these bottles are getting trashed. Not only does a refillable bottle make good environmental sense, but it's also good for your bank balance, because buying single-use water bottles, your water costs anywhere from hundreds to thousands of times more. They're not really selling you the water as much as they're selling you the packaging and everything that comes with that. Totally understand that not everybody has access to clean water. So when it is an option, carry around your reusable water bottle. A lot of places do have filtered water that you can get for free. It saves you a ton of money and is super, super helpful for the environment, because again, those bottle caps can be really problematic as well as the bottle itself. Number 4 on the ban list was plastic bags. So a great solution to this is bringing your own bags. Again, with the caveat that things are a little funky right now, but plastic bags are ubiquitous in the environment, right? They used to, since we banned them in California, we've definitely seen a decrease, but plastic bags pose a threat to wildlife on land and on sea, while polluting our lakes, rivers, beaches, and oceans. They are master escape artists, blowing out of trash cans, landfills, getting stuck in trees and tall fences. I know I've seen entire trees covered with all of these plastic bags. And they even clog storm water drains, which add costs to municipal waste management and create urban blight. And increasingly, animals like goats, cows, horses, and even camels are treated for plastic bag ingestion, which results in blockages, dehydration, starvation, or sepsis from these bacterial infections. So plastic bags can be very, very problematic, and they even damage recycling infrastructure at MRFs, material recovery facilities, which can lead to costly shutdowns and repairs, and even puts workers at risk because they have to go in there and manually get those out. Oftentimes, they're also just too dirty for our domestic recycling markets. So a lot of these can get exported to other countries like Southeast Asia, as we have previously talked about, where it leads to environmental and worker health standards that are low or non-existent. So bringing your own shopping bag is a great way to help. One thing that I have been doing through this pandemic is actually just putting things right back in my cart and taking it out to my trunk. Again, I know that's a little bit more challenging if you are taking public transportation. Another thing is a lot of the times they have boxes that you can use. Boxes where they're where the produce comes in, and you can just use those right in your cart and put your food in there, and I just take it straight from those boxes into my cart. So on average, a plastic bag is used for 12 minutes, and they persist in our environment for decades. This is definitely a design flaw, and doing simple things like bringing our own, or even putting just our produce just naked directly in our bags is a great way to reduce those and a way to be part of the solution. Bringing your own containers as well. So there are places like Refillery or BYO Long Beach, which we saw previously, that I know some things like dish soap and certain cosmetics and things like that, things for the home can be a little bit challenging to find without plastic packaging. So this is a great way to reduce your plastic consumption and keep those costs low. And the more that we're seeing these kinds of BYO places pop up, these refill stations pop up, the more that if they see a demand, the more that we'll see more of these. So this is Refillery LA, which is actually a mobile station that comes straight to you. So if you live in the LA area, I highly encourage you to check them out. They are awesome. And something as simple as refusing can be part of the solution as well, right? So simply saying, no thanks, I don't use single-use plastic is a way to start that conversation, and to, if you are in a situation where maybe you did forget your own and you don't have an opportunity to sit down and use a house cup, or, as things are kind of shifting right now because of COVID, this is a great option as well. Just saying, no thanks, I, don't need a lid, I don't use single-use plastics, I don't need utensils, whatever it is. This is a great way to help. Remember, a lot of those lids are made from polystyrene, and as we know, polystyrene, or as we talked about earlier, polystyrene contains styrene, which is a presumed carcinogen. So maybe let's not be putting things that are carcinogens in our food if we can avoid it. And we're talking a lot about things that individuals can do, but remember, the previous lesson, we talked a lot about how can we get to systemic changes? How can we get to institutional changes so that it's not always on the person? We talk about BYO as a way to get us to, as like the intermediary step to get us to those systemic and institutional changes. So until those things happen, we can bring our own, but really we want to see this done on a big scale, like that video was showing, not just individual companies, but really all of these companies coming together to make these changes towards a circular economy. An amazing company that's doing just that is our Cup. So in an effort to cut back on the 4 billion single-use plastic cups used at live events around the world each year, our Cup worked with social impact consultancy Effect partners to create a reusable, fully recyclable plastic cup that is branded by the live event attraction. So fans pay a $3 deposit and can keep the cup, which features original art for the event, or they can return it after use for a deposit refund. It is a really amazing system that works really well. So it gives people a chance to participate in the solution immediately on the spot, which is awesome. And they've been able to displace the use of 500,000 single-use cups just in its first year of activation. Definitely recommend y'all check them out. They're doing really amazing things. Another item that we saw on the top 20 for better alternatives is reusable takeout. And we know that this is continuing to rise through this COVID-19 time, but reusable takeout foodware is a great way to do this. Again, sometimes it's challenging to bring your own. I have been able to bring my own to certain places, and I can call ahead and say if it's possible for me to bring my own containers, and they can put the food directly in there. So that is an option. But again, that's really challenging to put the onus just on the individual. So we are seeing other companies like Dispatch Goods, for example, in San Francisco, that is working with restaurants and with companies directly to create these systems where you can order your food in these reusable takeout containers, which is really, really awesome. When a reusable takeout is not an option, making sure that you are using items that are truly biodegradable. So a lot of the times, we've seen lots of greenwashing with some of these things, which is why I highly recommend you all check out the Better Alternatives Now List 2.0 to learn more about bioplastics. But whenever possible, making sure that whatever option you're using is truly biodegradable. In this case, we have an example of Click Eat, which is also one of our partners. And you can see that this is made out of bamboo, so it would be truly biodegradable and would break down. So yeah, just make sure that when you are using something that, it's not just something that is like a bioplastic that says compostable, because again, compostable can mean different things, and it usually has to go to a composting facility, an industrial composting facility fully and properly break down. Whereas these would be, I'd be able to throw them in my backyard compost and that would break down. So those are two very, very different scenarios. And when you are looking, one more caveat, when you are looking at paper-based products, one thing to look out for is to make sure that these are uncoated. A lot of the times these paper-based or fiber-based products can be coated with something called PFAS, which is a large, complex family of forever chemicals. We're learning more and more about these chemicals all the time. But if you are looking for single use, make sure, if it's possible, that it is truly biodegradable, that it is uncoated and paper-based. Apologies for all the dings. And as the video mentioned, innovation. So let's check this out really quickly. It's an amazing company that is using, instead of to replace water bottles, they are using edible water capsules made out of seaweed. Amazing. So let's check it out. It does have no sound, but you can see the captions playing. A natural edible packaging. I'll give you a read for you. It's made from seaweed, a material made from seaweed and plants to tackle our plastic pollution problem. So you can see here they have the manufacturing using technology. And these were put into action on the spot at this event here. So if you have seen when they're doing marathons and whatnot, you see just lots of those little cups. Some of those are paper, but they oftentimes are coated in plastic. Here we can see a great use for sachets. So those little single-use multi-layer containers that contain ketchup and different things like that. This is a great use for those. So just an amazing example of how innovation can replace some of the uses for some of these single-use plastic packaging. And I think the idea here is that anything is possible, right? We don't have to get stuck in this way of being just because it is what it is. So looking at what exists out there currently, how can we have these things lead to systemic and institutional changes, and where is the need for innovation? Here's another amazing example, natural packaging alternatives. So again, sometimes we're like, well, we still have to ship things and, expanded polystyrene is incredibly cheap. Well, there are other solutions. Like here's an example of natural packaging alternatives. This is made out of mushroom mycelium. So really amazing how they've been able to create lots of different solutions using alternatives. So this is, I believe, starch-based packaging peanuts. And they are certified compostable cups and plates as well, which we've talked about, but lots of different alternatives to these things. The tide is certainly turning. So we hope that some of these solutions were inspiring. Again, I highly recommend you all check out our Better Alternatives Now list 2.0. And we wanted to challenge you all with one final challenge for this first season of Trash Academy, to join our ambassador team. So we have amazing plastic pollution activists all across the world, over 1,500 activists all across the world doing incredible things. We challenge you to join this amazing network of folks. You can visit our website, 5gyres.org/ambassadors. We'll put it down in the comments as well for you to access easily. If you're not a part of our ambassador team yet, highly recommend you join. It is an amazing group of inspiring individuals doing things to change their communities locally, whether it's through education, through policy change, through just individual actions, cleanup events. There's so much that each one of us can do, but doing it together and remembering that this is not a moment, but a movement, and together we can do it. This is how we'll be part of that solution. So highly encourage you all to join. We'd love to have you as part of the ambassador family. And then finally, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for following along with our plastic journey on this first season of Trash Academy. And a very special thank you to the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California for their generous donation, which enabled us to bring this resource to all of you. So Thank you all so much. Please visit our website, 5gyres.org, if you want to view any of the past Trash Academy lessons, or if you want to even download the presentations themselves and you can reuse them, whether you're an educator. Again, this has been kind of following our curriculum. So please visit 5gyres.org/educators. We will link all of this for you, and just encourage you all to stay connected and to continue on. There is lots of work to be done, and we're so excited to be doing it alongside of you. So thank you all so much. Please stay tuned for more information on Trash Academy Season 2. And again, join our ambassador program so you can be the first to know about any upcoming news. All right, thanks everybody.